Hello and welcome to another update video about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is pretty much doing what we expected in the last few videos, and this is a smaller dip. We talked about the RSI on the daily being overbought. We talked about this morning on the 8-hour chart about that bearish crossover. We talked about the MACD or the bearish crossover on the 8-hour MACD. We talked about the daily MACD, which was losing momentum. We talked about that hanging man candlestick pattern yesterday that indicated a bearish reversal. And then when we broke the trend line to the downside, we now saw quite a bit of a dip. Nothing that is out of the norm here in the crypto market. Is totally normal to get a 3.5% dip. That is nothing unusual, but we can see that some other altcoins that did some good gains or made some good gains this week and last week, they are now selling off a little bit more, of course, like Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is usually one of the least volatile cryptos. But before we start with the video and before diving deeper in the chart of Bitcoin, I wanted to draw your attention to crypto.com, which is the fastest growing crypto app, and they have kindly sponsored this video. So I use crypto.com myself. You can download it on the App Store, you can download it on Google Play, and you can use it to buy crypto, to trade crypto, to transfer crypto, and also they have an NFT marketplace for everybody who's interested in NFTs, so that's pretty cool. And you can get their Visa Metal card. I've got one myself. You can choose your card here. If you're interested in that, then you can use the affiliate link that you can find in the video description. And if you use it, you get a small bonus on top of that. And depending on how many Crow you want to stake, you get one of these cards here. And you can see also the card benefits here, ranging from Spotify, 100% discount, to Netflix 100% discount, Prime, Expedia, Airbnb discounts, or even cashback, and that depends on which card you have. All right, let's start with the Bitcoin chart. As I said, Bitcoin below 46K again, after Bitcoin really struggled to get through that 48K resistance level. So we talked about it on this channel here in the last couple of days actually already. I anticipated a bit of a dip actually a little bit earlier, but Bitcoin did hold pretty well. So as you can see here, Bitcoin is in this ascending channel at the moment. After it broke above 45.8K, it obviously unlocked higher prices. We talked about that. Based on this Elliott Wave scenario, we would then, now that we broke above that 45.8K level, we should get into this region up here, which actually starts at 51K, goes all the way up to 65K. I've made that target area a little bit smaller. I think usually, so the 51K level is the 50% Fibonacci retracement level. Usually you would expect Bitcoin to go a little bit higher because it typically does not stop at the 50% Fibonacci retracement level. However, we need to get there first, and Bitcoin had more difficulties to get through this level here as expected. So we talked about that already in the last few videos, that we saw here an exhaustion coming, and you could see it obviously already on the 4-hour chart. Yeah, we talked about that bearish MACD crossover. We talked here about, what did we talk about? We talked about a little bit of a bearish divergence we saw on the RSI as well. On the 8-hour chart, what did we see? We saw the RSI being overbought. So as it usually happens when you're getting overbought, especially here above 80, you can expect a correction, and that is exactly what we are seeing now. Nothing unusual. We saw here this morning I think this morning we already saw here that bearish crossover coming, and that usually also translates into a correction that is coming. On the daily chart also in the last few days, we talked about that nearly overbought RSI and the MACD already losing momentum. Today, this morning, when I made the first video about Bitcoin, we saw already the second bar becoming light green. And very importantly, yesterday, that possible reversal pattern, we talked about it in detail, that hammer pattern, also called hanging man, that now translate into a further correction. So all of that, I think pretty much the anticipation of a correction or a dip is working out. I told you that when that daily is turning around here on the daily, so getting maybe a bearish crossover. I mean, we are far away from a bearish crossover on the MACD on the daily, but if that happens, then you are going to see a deeper correction. told you that it will be really interesting to see how the market is going to react if that MACD is turning around, and the RSI is coming down. Will that have a larger impact, or will it just be a small retest? At the moment, it's currently at least looking just like a small retest. And also here we talked about in the last video about retesting possibly here at 45.5K level. And if we zoom in, we can see how much the price actually came down. It did come down to 45.6, so pretty much very, very close to that. I think this is all within a valid zone of a retest, and maybe this is just a retest and it would be fine. But what we need to understand and see how strong the price actually came down. So it's coming down quite impulsively. Also what we could see here, we talked about this triangle pattern. So in the previous video, it looked a little bit like that we broke out here to the upside, and we did really. We broke out and we moved all the way up to 47.6. But I warned you because we did not see the volume. So in addition to a retest, you also want to see volume when we break out of a triangle, or in this case, a descending wedge. And we did not have the volume. So as we didn't have the volume, it obviously broke down. And as we broke above that or below that ascending trend line, that was it. That was the trend line where, we mentioned in the previous video as well that as long as you are above that trend line, it should be fine. Even if you don't see the volume, you can move up slowly. But as soon as you break it, you're probably going to see a bit of a dip here and possibly can retest that 45.5K level. And that is just what we're doing now. So I really just want to bring the message across that at the moment, at least, all we're doing here is just retesting previous support. Now, a dip down to 45.5 and maybe 44.5 is not a disaster. But as soon as I think you're going to break here below that 42.7K level, that previous swing high here, and that was an important resistance level here before as well. If you break below that, I think we need to really discuss further potential further price drops, and then maybe even think about, is this actually not going to play out, this scenario? And then I really need to look into detail, or in detail, how this could currently be, or what kind of pattern we're then looking at. Because at the moment, what are we looking at here? We're currently looking just purely at an ABC correction. So you're coming down here and you have A, B, C, and within this wave B, you've got also here your you also have your subwaves A, B, C, because the wave B consists of 3 waves. It's a bit more complex than that. You've got actually a WXY in here and then an ABC, but that doesn't really make a difference. I don't want to make it too complicated here. But this is part of a correction, obviously, and usually Bitcoin should get at least to 51K before it turns around. Now, if it turns around earlier, then we really need to have a think how this could then work out, because then this ABC pattern is probably not going to work out, and we might really see earlier than expected that move down that has been my primary scenario until we broke out of 45.8K. Now the thing is, if Bitcoin can't establish itself up here, then we need to reactivate this scenario down here, which to be honest we anticipate anyway. So even if you make this extended move up, come then down, or you move down straight away, in both cases I would expect the price to reach here below 29K levels. And that is, and I remain very stubborn about that, that is what I think Bitcoin has to do in the longer term. I mean, I'm talking here about not tomorrow, not next week, not in 2 weeks, maybe in 4, 5, 6 weeks, that this area will be reached. I mean, it can happen very fast. We can see these dips here that happened actually throughout middle of November all the way into December. That was a huge drop, and that happened only in 2 to 3 weeks. So, I mean, you never know how fast something can happen. But as long as Bitcoin is not able to break above that 200-day moving average and break out of that channel here, we are probably going to see here, I mean, a rejection is currently happening. But this could just be at the moment a retest that is actually very important, because we have not retested the previous resistance as support. So actually, this could be something very bullish. Therefore, I told you that a 45.5K retest, what we are possibly doing at the moment, is not a disaster. It's actually what is quite good and what we anticipated and expected. And it is also quite healthy. And Yeah, people already talking about selling. I mean, I would never, usually I would not sell the dip. I would rather buy the dip and sell the top. Yeah, when we see exhaustion here, and then rather use, but possibly not even that, but rather use the dips to accumulate, because this is what is building wealth. I mean, the price targets for Bitcoin, generally we're talking about 6 digits anyway at some point, right? So all we need in these markets is a little bit of patience, and hopefully these videos help you to keep the orientation in the market. So that's currently how I see Bitcoin. Again, it's becoming very exciting here again. We see volatility, which is important and good and keeps people interested, and also it makes the videos more interested to make and hopefully to watch. So yeah, hopefully you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe. And if you really like the content, then check out the channel membership. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.